Okay. So welcome everyone to Youth Services session. I apologize for the link issue. So hopefully everyone is here. I think we're missing a few people, but we are recording it and we will make it available to everyone. So welcome. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Ed Fowler. He's going to be kind of our host for this session. He has brought a couple of guest speakers on to discuss youth services. Ed's bio is that he's a member of the Rotary Club of Kitchener, and he's been so since 1996, club president 2004 and 5, the district youth exchange member since 2012, district youth exchange chair from 2017 to 19, and the district youth services chair since 2020. So I'm going to pass it over to you, Ed, and you can introduce your other speakers.
Great. So just for everybody's background, youth services covers three areas in Rotary. One is youth exchange. The second is Interact. And the third is RYLA, which is Rotary Youth Leadership Assembly. That's just changed fairly recently. And so those are the three areas that sit under the youth services sector. And so I've introduced, or I've invited somebody from each of those areas to give us a little bit of a discussion as to what it is, why it's a good thing for your club to get involved in, how you might do that, and then most importantly, where you can get additional information. And the hour tonight's going to go by really quickly, I'm sure. There might be some time for questions, but otherwise, we strongly encourage you to follow up with these people. All of the people that are going to present tonight are long-standing members, know things very, very well, and are there to entice you to get involved in their programs. So without further ado, I see Sheila Wellham there. She will be representing Youth Exchange. She's the current director there, and she's going to tell you why Youth Exchange is fabulous. Go ahead, Sheila.
Youth Exchange is fabulous. So my name's Sheila Wellham. I'm part of the Rotary Club of Burlington Central. I can't believe it was 16 years ago that I was introduced to Rotary. My daughter came home from school and said, I want to be part of the Youth Exchange program. I had no idea what it was. Long story short, she was selected out of 24 students and got to go to France for a year. So that's my beginnings with Rotary, and especially with Rotary Youth Exchange. So it's my pleasure to be here tonight. I've hosted 9 international students. I've also served on the Youth Exchange Committee in my club and on the district committee. And as Ed said, I'm now the chair of Youth Exchange for District 7080. So I have a short little presentation I'm going to put on. Bear with me a minute. Have you got that? So yep, Rotary Youth Exchange. It's said often, Rotary Youth Exchange builds peace one young person at a time. And certainly there's so many stories to support that. And as you get to know students, you'll learn the same. Now, importantly, where is Youth Exchange now? So due to the pandemic, Rotary International had to suspend the program. So I guess we lost 2 years of Youth Exchange. And RI has officially said we can move forward and exchanges can start again in June 2022. Our Youth Exchange Committee for this district made the difficult decision to suspend the program until the summer 2023. So that means we could start recruiting September this year. There were a couple big reasons for that decision. One of them, we didn't want to recruit students, get their hopes up, and with so many uncertainties, have to let them down because they maybe couldn't do the program. And secondly, the number of participating clubs has been reducing. So we decided to sort of take a pause, really try and get a feel for clubs and youth exchange in our district before we move forward. So that's where we are now. So what is youth exchange? Youth exchange is an opportunity for students to learn a new language, discover another culture, and truly become global citizens. Exchange is reciprocal. So for every student we sponsor, our club will welcome a student as well. Students are selected following interviews at both the club level and at district level. Training is provided by the district committee for students, for their parents. The parents really need the training too. And we do training for the clubs. The long-term exchange lasts a full academic year, typically mid-August to end of June or mid-July. Students attend local schools. They live with multiple host families. We try and have them with 3 or 4 families throughout the year to get a varied experience. And students are absolutely expected to immerse in the local culture wherever they may be and when they're with us. So what does a club have to do? So a club will have to recruit and interview students, recruit and interview host families. The clubs will participate in the training. They'll form a budget for the student, the inbound student that's coming. Clubs will include students in their club meetings, activities, and events, and it certainly can add a nice energy to your club when you've got inbounds or outbounds participating. Clubs will also support host families. If you're hosting a student for 3 or 4 months, it's nice if someone takes the student out for dinner, spends some time with them, gives you a little break from your everyday hosting. So we do expect clubs to do some supporting. And what it does for the club gets to learn a new culture. Hopefully you've got a student coming to you and you are learning all about them. So it's a really nice perk for the club. And you're involved in changing the life of a student. And it's a pretty special feeling when that happens. So where do we go from here? To resume the program, we do need commitment from clubs to sponsor and host students. We need committed Rotarians to join the committees. And of course, we will need candidates. So really, we need you. What can you do? You can talk to your club, see if your club has hosted before or sponsored a student. Talk to other clubs in your cluster. Maybe you haven't, but a club nearby has. Maybe there's someone in your club who has championed the program before and you can learn a lot from that person. Or maybe you know someone who would get excited to champion something like this, but maybe they just need a partner to do it with to be brave enough to take on this exciting challenge. You can ask questions, again, in your club, in your cluster, the Youth Exchange Committee. There are lots of resources to ask questions to. And one of the things that's really exciting is when you invite a student to speak at your club. So we really encourage you, if you have past students, inbounds or outbounds, they can come and talk. And if you still have the Zoom option, that's amazing, because you can really bring students in from anywhere. And the other thing, you can have someone from the Youth Exchange Committee come and talk. So lots of options to have people speak and hopefully generate some interest within your club. So we will be asking you, is your club interested in sponsoring a student? And that was Youth Exchange in a real nutshell. Sometimes I think we get the best conversations when we're asking questions. So what I'm hoping is we can talk a little bit about what your club's experience is with the program. We just want to hear the good, and what you might like to know about it. So Ed, before I say any more questions, do you have anything to add to that little brief blurb?
No, I think very appropriate, Sheila. Thank you. I think that's exactly what we wanted. What I'm thinking, just because we have a couple different other people, is that I'd like to maybe have people hang on to their questions. We'll do the presentations, and then whatever time we have left, we'll open it up for any of the other questions. I'm thinking we might not get to them all, but we'll make sure that we have your contact information so that people who aren't able to get their questions asked now can get back to you and have that chat with you to be able to get to know what they need to know.
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you, Sheila. Excellent as always.
You're welcome.
And I think next we'll go to Uche, who is the district chair for Interact. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to Uche.
Thank you very much, Ed. Good evening, everyone. It's so exciting to be here with everyone. Just quickly to add to what Ed said, I am the district Interact chair. I am also my club's membership chair, as well as my club's president-elect. I'm actually excited about youth services. It's one of my particular areas of interest. And so when Ed asked me to lead the Interacting for the district, and when I successfully put a team together, it's been a wonderful experience. So this evening, I'll just share with us in summary what Interact is about and why every Rotary Club should actually sponsor at least one Interact Club. So what is Interact? Just briefly, Interact actually started on November 5th, 1962 in the Melbourne High School in Florida. And the name Interact is just a combination of international action. And the whole idea behind Interact is Rotary wants Rotary clubs to actually be formed in smaller units in high school, so students get the chance to affect their communities directly and also participate in programs internationally. Interact clubs are for students aged 12 to 18, and the whole idea is to help bring them together to embark on projects so they can hone their leadership skills, they can help Rotary experience the power of service above self. And of course, to ensure that in the process of acquiring leadership skills, they contribute meaningfully to their various communities. Some of the advantages of being an interactor is that you learn to take action to make a difference in your community, in your school, and internationally. You discover new cultures because you're working with different people from diverse backgrounds. You're also promoting international understanding. You become a leader in your school, you become a leader in the community, and by virtue of relationships that you form along the way, you can become a leader internationally as well. And of course, you have fun in the process while making friends locally and all around the world. During the pandemic, we did take some hit, but we emerged from the pandemic pretty strong. So Interact clubs usually organize at least 2 key projects every year. One is to affect their local community, and the other is to affect the community at large internationally. But this really didn't happen over the last 2 years because of COVID, but some Rotary, some Interact clubs were active as well. So the district has 23 active Interact clubs. Unfortunately, we have about 12 terminated Interact clubs and a couple of suspended clubs as well. But in all, over the last 2 years, a little less than 10 clubs were active. They had online programs, and then where they can, where they could, they did meet to carry out projects minimally. So for example, in Burlington, the Interact Club at Nelson High School met virtually all through the period, and now they meet in person. Same thing too with the Central Peel Secondary School in Brampton. They had monthly online programs that attracted the students to be part of it, where they actually brought in speakers. The Oakville Trafalgar High School Interact Club as well was active. And from that activeness and how we managed to get some Rotary clubs interested, we actually have a couple of new clubs in the horizon. So right now we have a new Interact club, Frank Hayden, in Frank Hayden Secondary School. So that club will be chartered pretty soon, as they have kicked off. It is better to learn about Interact from reading our monthly newsletter. I'm just going to copy and paste that quickly in the chat box. just so that we can have time to read it. Everyone, yep. And everyone see the link? Okay, good. So just find time to read it. Everything about Interact is there. It's from way down in 2020 up until now. So once you have time to read through it, you will have an idea how effective Interact has been. For me, I see Interact as one of the ways where we can actually be sure that sustainable world peace can be achieved. So in talking about how clubs can be involved, one of the things that clubs should see as a driver is the fact that whatever we do for interactors today can actually become the reason why we have world peace tomorrow. Because when you actually have young people working together, understanding diverse cultures, understanding diverse backgrounds, working with people from all walks of life, they actually grow up to have that understanding of human beings. And so hate is eliminated and love is spread. And this is love through service, which is a very rich type of love. So I strongly believe that if every Rotary Club, and indeed if every organization is encouraged to invest in the youth through programs like Interact, one day we would have what I call effortless world peace. And I think that is priceless. So Rotary clubs can be involved, and Rotary clubs have been doing a lot. So for example, we have over 14,000 Interact clubs, almost 350 interactors in 145 countries. So one key reason to be involved is that Rotary clubs get to mentor interactors. And that is very key. We mentor them and we encourage them to participate in supporting local charities, in volunteering with different organizations, and of course, working with them to develop the leadership skills. We can also promote awareness of Rotary and even our mottos when we support them in key projects that they have. So projects like World Interact Week, Interact Video Awards, the Rotary Youth Day at the United Nations, and the Global Youth Service Day. In supporting the interactors through these projects, we actually promote awareness of Rotary International. Now, how can clubs get involved? Quickly, you can get involved either by sustaining an existing Interact club. Just ensure that you mentor the interactors by inviting them to join your club projects. You can be involved by revamping a suspended or terminated Interact club. Just ensure that there is at least one Rotarian interested in working with the school, and also at least one academic advisor in the school that will act like a liaison between the Interact club and the Rotary club. There are steps to take in forming a new club. That's another way to be involved. I will share my contacts later, and maybe I can share these documents because of time. How to establish a club, you work with school boards or the schools themselves, put students together. We can come talk to these students for you and then form the clubs. It's a pretty seamless process. And then, of course, I am the primary contact for Interact. Like I said, I have a team of 6 Rotarians, very active Rotarians, and they are spread across the district. So we ensure that at least one of the sub-clusters has one member represented on the Interact team. We also have interactors on that board as well as Rotaractors. So it's a pretty diverse team. I'm going to share my contact here as well, just so that we have that. So if you have any questions, if you need any support on either how to revamp your clubs, how to start a new Interact club, we can help. That's my contact there. Just reach out to us. I can share documents with you. Like lately, a Rotarian did reach out to us and documents were shared, and they're on their way to forming a new Interact club. So whatever support you need to form Interact club, like I said, it is Rotary's best investment till date. And also, the district is supporting Rotary clubs and interactors with a program we started last year, and that is the District Grant Writing Initiative. So what it does is we have a seminar where we teach interactors how to write grants. They research the registered charities. They also check out their statuses, financially, and what they do and how they do it. We also teach them how to write winning grants and put in an application. And of course, at the end of last year, a couple of Rotary clubs did support the project. So there were funds available for them to sponsor the projects that they had put up in partnership with the registered charities. We're doing that again this year. And I will use this chance to, solicit that Rotary clubs can sponsor this event. You can just sponsor by indicating whatever funding that you might have available, so that when these Interact clubs that are in their numbers now put these projects together, we can support them by funding the projects. Again, it helps them work better as teams. It helps them hone their skills. And of course, it helps us project Rotary out there in the community through our children. Thank you very much.
Excellent, Uche. Yeah, so the Interact people, like everybody, COVID was a bit of a shake, but they very quickly got themselves some footing pretty early in the pandemic, and sort of kept some things rolling. And then I was surprised that the students that had been involved were really keen to stay involved and keep things moving. I mean, I was really impressed by it. I think it was, part of their, way of staying in touch with other students and feeling that they weren't as alone as many people might have felt during COVID. And so they've continued on really well. Like I've been very impressed with Uche, and he's got a deep team. Like, people really know what they're doing. And so, for clubs thinking about getting involved, connecting with Uche or any of the people on his team, you'll be well taken care of in terms of helping you understand the things you need to do and how to bring things on. And so one other thing that I've noticed is that the involvement in Interact in our district is very deep. I think on the east end, it's a little bit lighter as it goes west. And so perhaps some of the people, anybody that's listening from some of the more Western clubs in the district might want to get involved. We have strong representation in the West in youth exchange, but less so in Interact. And so I encourage you to find out more about the program from Uche and his group. And it's they get involved in some really interesting projects, driven for the most part, as I understand it, from students. Like, students come up with ideas of things they want to do to help the world. And as Uche said, is there a more noble and worthwhile cause? I don't think there is. So thanks again, Uche. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
So our third speaker was to be Chrisbeth Cowie, but I'm not sure.
Don't think she's come on, Ed.
I don't. So
No.
I think tonight I will be Chrisbeth Cowie. Yay, that's right. Sheila knows that I've done worse, so let's just see what happens here. So Chrisbeth was going to be the presenter for RILA. Janani is actually the chair. She's a Rotaractor and has been involved in many other district events. And so she and some other Rotaractors have really taken the helm for this year. So as opposed to sort of ongoing programs like Youth Exchange and Interact, RILA is an event. It happens typically in the spring, and RILA is for a little bit older students, whereas the both Youth Exchange and Interact are sort of high school age participants. RILA tends to be a little bit older. So the previous 2 years, we didn't have the RILA event in the spring due to COVID, but very good news, we're having one this year. And some of you may already, yes, very good, very good. And some of you may have already heard about it. It's in the district calendar. And it's going to occur virtually. So this is different than the usual in-person event that happens often at a retreat up in the Orangeville area over a weekend. But this year it will be virtual, and it is sort of the weekend of May 13, 14. So When I spoke to Janani last week, she said that they've already met their sort of preliminary goals for participants, which is fantastic. I think they still have a few spots left. But if you're thinking about it, I would encourage you to get involved now as the spots are filling up. So RILA is really I think it's sort of a training session for young people, 18 to 30, maybe at the upper end. And I think, and the participants they have signed up, they have people sort of across that range. There were questions about, well, what about, grade 12s in high school? Are they able to participate? And the answer was yes. And so I think we have a couple of grade 12s. And then lots of people in post-secondary education. And the gathering will happen this year virtually, and they will be, they've already got their program laid out as well. I think that's on the district website that you can see. So for club members, where you start with that is sponsoring somebody in that age category who would be interested in, it's sort of some personal training, some business training, some getting along with other people. They've got quite a nice program from what I've seen. And so if you have a person that you're thinking of that would like to attend that, there is a fee for the club. I've forgotten $150. Anybody correct me if I've got that wrong, but there's a fee that for participation. And then this year, they will all be virtual presentations, but they've got a number of different guest speakers, some professional speakers, some Rotarians, and then some other activities for just group dynamics and getting along, making decisions, working with groups to solve problems. And there should be a fair bit of feedback as well. So for this year, we're rolling, like it'll be here before we know it. But any questions that you might have, you're welcome to contact me. You're welcome to contact Chris Beth Cowie or Janani in Mississauga. So I think that's what I've got to present for RILA.
Ed, I think someone mentioned the amount, but I don't think we could hear what it was.
It was 150.
Got it. Good guess. Yeah, so great uptake. I mean, I think there's been some demand to get some youth programs rolling again, and this one came about. They've got it together, and so there's very good participation so far. There's room for perhaps a few more. So if you're thinking of it, you'll need to do that fairly quickly. And yeah, and away we go. I mean, I guess long term, the plan would be to get back to in-person things, say for 2023. But for this year, things are coming together, and we're really looking forward to having a great weekend in the middle of May. So on that note, I think I will turn it over to any questions that might be out there that people have, and we can answer them and then wrap up the session.
Well, if anybody has any questions, I don't have any in the chat just yet. Now is the time to raise your hand and ask the question directly.
Susan, I think there's one from Sheila.
I don't have a question yet, but I might.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's not the question. Sorry, it's a comment. Okay.
You never
Sorry.
know.
He usually asks these little pointed questions that make you think, what did I miss?
Diane from
There's something
Erin
that
has
she's
her
after
hand
here,
up.
yes.
Hi there. Yes, my name is Diane Woodworth, and I'm a relatively new Rotarian, so I'm learning the ropes. I joined the RILA committee at my club level. So again, I wasn't as active of a participant as I wanted to be, but you know, we have a couple of students from our high school going, or not high school, sorry, a couple of local students that are post-secondary going this year, which is wonderful. But I had a question about the youth exchange. And I'm not sure if my club has ever hosted this, so I have
What's
to
your
go
club?
back. It's the Aaron Hillsburg.
I think it's been a while.
Yeah, so I'll be discussing it with them at our meeting on Thursday.
Excellent.
I'll be sending an email to add that to the agenda. So I just wanted to know, and I will do some research on it, but so the host families for this youth exchange, are they Rotarians or would they be families from the community? Or both?
They can be Rotarians. We encourage Rotarians to host.
Okay.
We encourage the family of an outbound student to host.
Okay.
And certainly we can reach out beyond that, but we try and start internally in Rotary and the exchange student families.
Okay, great. Okay, again, I don't know if it's ever been done, but I will ask. And I think the other thing, I don't know if I'm pronouncing the name right, but Uche, is that correct?
Yes. You are.
Okay, so the Interact, so it's at the school level then. You mentioned the different schools in Brampton and others. So, and I recognize them because I used to live in Brampton. But so I can, again, look that up as well if there's interest at our club level and enough hands to help out. But so we would approach the school and have a liaison at that level. That's it. Is there a
Yes.
big
So
commitment?
you're talking about how to start one, right?
Yes.
Yes. So at the beginning, I see that same question was also asked by Shelley. So at the beginning, what you'll be encouraged to do is find a school. First, of course, your club has to agree on the fact that you want to sponsor an Interact club, and also have at least one Rotarian that will act as a Rotarian advisor. Just somebody that will be interested enough to work with the interactors. It's very key. Also, once you find a school that you want to establish the Interact club at, you can either work with the district school board if you want to, or just work directly with the schools. Now, lately I've heard that one thing that works like clockwork is if you can find a way to support the school with a program or something. Maybe you can make a donation to the school for a certain program that they have or whatever. That will start by giving you access to make that presentation formal, so you can talk about Interact, meet with the principal, get at least one teacher to be interested in being the academic advisor. And then the next thing would be basically to work with us at the district level to support you. So for example, by the time you get that teacher advisor, it would be wise to begin to put interactors together, the students. They usually like the idea of whatever gives them a chance to volunteer because of volunteer hours, right? So you find quickly students being very excited about it. So we can get to talk to the students, meet informally. Over time, they decide on the day and time and frequency they want to meet. All the while, we'll be talking to them about Interact, right? The pros of Interact and the importance, advantages. And then we can get that process started. Once you have a couple of students interested, we can get them registered. It's again a seamless process. You just fill out the form. You get the president of the sponsor Rotary Club to sign, the district governor to sign. It is sent out to interact@rotary.org. And then in about 2 weeks or even less, you get their charter certificate that formally pronounces them as an Interact club.
Okay.
And then the rest is just support structure, basically.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for that.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you very much, Uche. Before we go on with your question, Shelley would like to know how many Rotaract and Interact clubs are in our district.
I'm not
Rotaract
sure
is
about-
not within this group here, so we'll stick to Interact tonight.
Okay.
Yes. So in the district right now, there are 36 Interact clubs, but we have only about 25 active. The remaining are either suspended or they are terminated. Now, you will be a suspended club if after a couple of years, the sponsoring Rotary Club or the teacher advisor have not indicated that there is an existing Interact club. It will go into suspension. And then maybe 1 year later, again, if that same act is not done, the club will be terminated. Rotary is just particular about these things because Interact means you're working with the youth, and we know how Rotary is with youth. So they want to be sure that you have a club that is under supervision. So yeah, to answer your question, we do have about 36 Interact clubs.
Thank you very much. There was one follow-up question to that. Is there a target of how many Interact clubs there should be, I suppose?
Well, so at the committee level in district, our target was to encourage every Rotary club to sponsor at least one Interact club. And again, the reason being, you have a Rotary club that is in a community where we have very great influence. And we have children, we have grandchildren, nieces, nephews, cousins. We work with children all the time. So it makes sense to sponsor them at school level and encourage them to become great leaders. So yeah, one per club at the minimum.
Thank you very much, Uche. And it's again your turn because you had your hand up first before we go to Sohail and Gaia.
Oh, yes, okay. So my question was going to be about RILA. I think the RILA program is online, right?
This year it's virtual. It's not
Okay.
usually that way, but this year it's virtual. Yeah.
Okay, I was just going to ask, is it possible? I don't know if it's going to be possible anyways, but with things going back quickly to normal now, can that program be converted to in-person, or it's too late for that?
They've committed to a virtual event this year. Their hopes are that next year it will be in person as it has been before COVID.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Sohail.
Thank you so much, Suzanne. I really appreciate Uche and Sheila for contributing in this today, and Ed definitely ad-lib all those things for RILA. That's great, Ed. But I have two questions. One for Uche. Is there any charge for, is there any fee involved in Interact Club?
No, there is none. So it's a free subscription. I know that some Interact clubs, by virtue of the projects that they embark on, they do fundraising, and they're very good at it. So for example, in 2020, Interactors at Central Peel worked with Rotarians in Nigeria, and collectively they raised over $2,000 for a project that they did in one of the internally displaced persons camp in Nigeria, where they gave them water filters. So, they're very good at fundraising. So for some reason, it's free subscription, but they do fundraising, they get all the money. And expectedly, the Rotary clubs that sponsor them support them financially as well.
So I have a question for Sheila. Thank you so much for Uche the answer. I have a question for Sheila. Sheila, what is our plan for next year? How many students we are thinking of sending out or bringing in? Is there any numbers available? So
We don't know yet. And part of what I'd like to hear from clubs is what is their interest. The last number we had was 7 participating clubs. That's getting on the low end for the program. We have had up to 30, maybe more, in past years. So we haven't talked about an official goal, but I would think we would like to at least be in the teens to move forward with this. And we're hoping we can get that much interest from clubs in the district.
thank you, Sheila. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila and Sohail. Gaia had her hand up for a question.
Yes, hi. Uche, sorry. I already have my volunteer database that I use from Volunteer NBC. They sign up for the programs and we advertise different positions we have with our club. So, and obviously we give them the hours. With the database I have right now to sustain them, can I make an Interact club with my existing high school volunteers at the moment.
So are they high school students or not?
Yes, they are.
Okay, so Interact can actually be formed at the community level. It's not only in high schools. So if the students from your volunteer list are part of multiple high schools, you can actually bring them together and form a community-based Interact club. We actually have 2 right now in the district. And they are pretty much doing well. So you can actually get the 3rd one running. So if your list is not made up of students from one school, then I would suggest you go for a community-based Interact club.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Uchin and Gaia. Shelley had her hand up as well for a question.
Hi, everyone. So I wanted to do a quick follow-up on the questions that I had put in the chat. You mentioned, Uche, that there are 36 clubs in the district, but only 25 active. That's a little bit close to 30% that's inactive. Is there a plan or a strategy for re-engaging those clubs? Do you know exactly? So let me just clarify. I'm fairly new to the district, to Rotary, and I'm not familiar as to even whether or not my club is involved in a Rotaract initiative. So those clubs particularly that are not currently active, do we know where they are and why they're not active, to try to re-engage them within a period? Because I'm thinking that it might be easier to re-engage some of those clubs rather than start a new one.
Okay, so I see you're a member of the Rotary Club of Mississauga, is it?
Correct.
Okay, so it will interest you to know that your Rotary Club is co-sponsoring the district's 2nd community-based Interact club that we have right now. And Rotary clubs in Mississauga actually sponsor almost half the entire Interact clubs we have in the district. So, Mississauga is big on Interact. And yes, it is disheartening to see some clubs terminated. We used to have a couple of clubs suspended, but right now we don't have any clubs suspended. I just checked my records. We did put in an application for those suspended clubs to be reactivated because their sponsor Rotary clubs contacted ROI indicating that they are still sponsoring those clubs. So right now we're just working on the terminated clubs. A couple of Rotary clubs have contacted us indicating interest to revamp the clubs that they were sponsoring. So hopefully that number will come down as well. So yes, there are plans to get it is easier because there are already existing clubs. It's just to get them reactivated. For some of the terminated clubs, the challenge we had was the fact that we lost the academic advisor that they have. Either they retired, they moved on, by leaving the school and all that stuff. So once you don't have one teacher in the school to work with the Rotary Club, it becomes difficult to actually work with the students because it's always advisable to have a teacher that will help you work with the students and not work with them directly. So hopefully, over the next couple of months, we will have some pull out from termination, and then going forward, it will also be a plan as well.
Thank you very much, Uche. Did that answer your question, Shelley?
Yes, it did to a large extent. Thank you.
Thank you very much. There was one more hand up so far. Is Martin from Guelph South?
My question is for Sheila. I've had experience with the exchange students. My son went overseas and we've hosted 6 families, 6 students. But I hadn't been involved on the Rotary side. I was before as a Rotarian. What are the expectations, financial expectations from the club level? If we want to sponsor or get involved, what is the financial expectation that we need to put in a budget for the club?
Great question. So basically what the club would be putting in their budget would be a stipend for the student. It was give or take $100 a month. That might be a little bit more now. We would also look at the cost if you put it in a budget or if you already have a budget for it, your breakfast, lunch, or dinners that you do weekly to include the student. In the past, phones were included. That's not a necessity now. Kids come prepared with all of the devices they need. So really our expenses are not huge to sponsor and host a student. You will notice across the district, different clubs do different ways. Some give more, some give less, but it's quite manageable for each club to figure out a budget that will work for them.
Who pays for the flight ticket from the other country?
The student and their family take care of the flight arrangements and the insurance.
Yeah, as Sheila said, there's a monthly stipend, as you call it, for a little bit of pocket money, and then there might be some fees involved around high school. So
Yes.
you might negotiate that. I think I've split the cost of football pads for a student who wanted to play high school football who'd never seen North American football before. And those kind of things. If I gave you a number, $2,000 probably looks after a student for a year. If you're looking for a number to put on your club budget.
So they would stay for a semester to finish the high school term?
They stay for a full school year. So it's typically 11 months.
Okay.
We had a Colombian learn how to play hockey and went
Yeah.
home with 2 hockey sticks.
That's great.
So if
Well,
they're
we
going,
had an Estonian who had never heard of rugby before and played here, went home and actually made the junior national team for Estonia. Now, I mean, they're not New Zealand, but he made the national team. Pretty big deal.
so they would have to go through the international student visa process too, right? To
Yes, they do get a student visa to travel.
yeah. That they do that on their own.
Yes, the student and their family will work towards that at both ends, the one we're sponsoring and the student coming in.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Uche, you had your
Yes.
hand up as well.
Yes, I did. So a comment and a question quickly. First, I'll just take the comment. So when Ed mentioned Chris Beth, I remember the first time I actually went to Orangeville at the camp where they had Ryla. It just reminded me that, if I'm not wrong, I think Chris Beth was actually trained, so to speak, by a Rotarian that we just lost recently in my club, Carol Berry. She was very big on Ryla. As a matter of fact, she was actually getting students to participate in the Ryla program. So if there's any program inside this Ryla that is up to be sponsored or whatever, maybe my club can get Carol's name on it, just a way to honor her, and then my club wouldn't mind taking that up. And I have a question for a question relating to the youth exchange program. Is there a restriction for family type or size that can host a student? Maybe must it be married couple with children, kids must be at a certain age, whatever,
No, there's
I say
no.
this because my wife and I has a son. He's just about 1 year old, and whenever the program starts again, we're looking at hosting at least one student or something. So just wondering if we qualify.
You absolutely qualify. Although we will have to interview you first, but yes, there are probably everyone on this screen would make a suitable host family. And that's one of the really exciting things. Whether you are a couple with a young family, whether you are senior on your own, a couple, anything in between, the students, they're a very unique bunch of kids, and they really embrace not just peers, but everyone. And, if you're an older couple and you aren't working and you're driving them everywhere, These kids may have a bond with you that they've never had before. If you're a busy, active family and they're taking the bus, that's okay too. So it really is something for everyone that everyone can consider.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila and Uche as well. It is almost 10 after 8. I will hand it over to Mary for a few final words. Thank you all so much. Well, hopefully I see you at some other sessions.
Great. Thanks, Suzanne. We had some wonderful questions. That's really good. There was one last one in the chat from Shelley. So if someone can just address that into the chat, that would be awesome. I just wanted to thank Ed for putting this together and inviting some of the guest speakers to talk about youth services. I learned a lot from this. I've got someone at my club that's very knowledgeable. Miles keeps us in tune with a lot of the youth services stuff, but I learned a lot this evening. So thank you, Sheila. Thank you, Uche. And thank you, Ed, for filling in on Chris Beth. We will make this recording available to everybody. It's on Dan's private Zoom account, so we'll have to figure out how to download that, but we'll make sure everybody gets a copy of the recording in case you missed some of it. And the next session is tomorrow evening at 6 o'clock, and it's for secretaries. If anybody's interested in joining that one, you'll just need to register. So have a wonderful evening, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you
very much. Good night.
So Shelley, my email address is up there. Just send me an email and I'll share the document with you. She was asking for a list of the Interact clubs in the district.
Is that
Yeah.
Interact 78?